Hi guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm reviewing season 2, episode 3 of the Gilded Age. We have so much to cover in this episode. The stakes are getting just a little bit higher. Our story is unfolding. We're getting some character development, so let's dive right on in. So Mrs. Russell is hosting yet another opera function at her house. As an aside, the food on period pieces always looks so good, even though no one is eating it. Like in real life or on the show, it's just like there and it just looks so pretty and delectable. But anyway, Mrs. Russell is determined to make the Met Opera House the place to be for the social season. She can't get a box at the Academy for whatever reason. She's been on the wait list for a while, so she's just like, I will build my own table. If she can get people to consider the Met Opera House to be like the place to be, her spot there is already solidified. They've made her the chairperson of fundraising and all of the things. So she's trying to get the girls to come to her cause. Now, this has caused a fracture between her and Mrs. Astor, because Mrs. Astor is still very much old money, the Academy. Now, Mrs. Russell's strategy is, if I can get more old money Academy opera box holders or whatever, season ticket holders, to also get a box at the Met, that gives legitimacy to our cause, right? So they draw a line in the sand and they decide that they are going to open the Met the same night as the Academy. This is actually going to force people to choose. Very bold move, because initially it was, maybe we just get people to play both sides of the fence. Now it's, whether you have a box at this place or this place, you got to choose where you can go on opening night. Mr. McAllister is freaked the hell out by this. Meanwhile, what's also happening is Turner, the new Mrs. Winterton, has brought her ass there because Mr. Winterton is a founding member of the Academy. And if he gets a box at the Opera House, the new money opera house, that'll really make it seem like, okay, this is an okay thing to do. Well, Turner came here to rub Mrs. Russell's nose in it, okay? Mrs. Russell was like, she probably won't want people to know that she's a lady's maid, so she thinks that she has one up on her. What Mrs. Russell doesn't know is that Turner tried to sleep with her husband. Now let's pull over right here. I think that Mr. Russell should have told Bertha the entire truth of what happened and allowed Bertha, who is a smart, reasonable person, to determine how she wanted to manage her household after that. It's the fact that he left it out. It's a lie by omission, which makes you look more guilty than you actually are. And the cardinal rule for women across all space and time is, don't embarrass me. Do not embarrass me. Do not give someone else a means by which to embarrass me. In my own house, in this economy, not okay. So her and Turner are exchanging barbs, and Mrs. Russell really thinks that she has one up on her, and Turner is like, girl, I feel like you're just jealous because your man wanted me. And Mrs. Russell is like, girl, what you talking about? So this causes some friction. She goes and confronts George, and George is like, girl, didn't nothing even happen. Like, I felt like, what was the point in telling you and upsetting the whole house? It didn't nothing even happen. Like, for what? What was the point? And Bertha is like, this woman combed my hair. She undressed me, okay? And she was naked with my husband. It's disgusting. It's not that deep. It is trifling, but it's not like calm down. I did learn a new word, jejune. Never heard that word before. It means naive. I said, come on, George Russell, with a vocabulary. So this creates a fracture in their marriage, but George still needs Bertha to show up and show out for Henderson, the union leader that they're bringing up from Pittsburgh. And Bertha does her job. Bertha knows how to play her role. They're trying to bribe this man. They're trying to wine and dine him. They want to get him to the side of the industry and to abandon the union. And Henderson is not budging. He is very much community over self, okay? And he tells Mr. Russell, like, I see what you're doing. Mr. Russell offers him like a management position. It'll be more money, more security for your family. Your wife won't have to work, blah, 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 blah. And Henderson is like, unionizing is the way of the future. You don't want to be left behind. Now, we know in real life that unionizing did lead to reform. The Our country industrializing came at a very high cost. And that cost was like lives, and it was a whole thing. There was child labor, there were no safety standards, and all these things. Unionizing did help to change those things, but unions are still controversial even today. It's like still, it's wild how it's still a thing that people just want to be paid a fair wage and live a decent life. Anyway, Henderson is not budging. He's like, you won't get me, okay? So we also find out that the Wintertons, as a part of their, standing in high society, they have connections with aristocracy back in England. So there's a duke that's coming to visit, and Bertha tells George, if you can get me a meeting with this duke so that maybe I can get, some royalties, some aristocracy on my side, then maybe I'll begin to forgive you. And it's interesting how transactional their marriage is. So meanwhile, across the street, right, Mrs. Astor is holding court at the Van Rhines. It's a much less turned up affair, very somber, we're just in the drawing room having a chit chat. So Mrs. Astor tells Agnes that she needs to write letters to the members of the Academy saying that if they buy a box at the Met, they won't be allowed at the Academy anymore. So lines are really being drawn in the sand. Now we know Peggy gonna be the one to write these letters, which Armstrong doesn't think that she's capable of. And it's like, Armstrong, just because you seem like you don't know how to read, don't mean our girl Peggy don't know how to read. So Aunt Ada really misses hosting, and we know that it's really that she wants the rector to come back through, but this works to her advantage because Agnes says that cousin Dashiell has written her expressing interest in our girl Marianne, and as per usual, Aunt Ada is asking the important questions of like, is that something that you think that Marianne wants? And Agnes is like, girl, it don't matter. She need a man. This is a man that I approve of. We gonna set it up. So they're gonna have a luncheon with these people. Oh, basically, Turner got her rich husband because she was scouring the newspapers and wrote this old wealthy man a letter saying how much she admires him. Very easy. So on the black side of town, our finance editor, Mr. Fortune, is going down to Alabama to interview Booker T. Washington about a new dormitory being built at Tuskegee. Shouts out to the HBCUs. Shouts out to my cousin who went there. Love you. And Peggy is like, damn, I want to go. I have questions I'd like to ask him. And they are having that classic philosophical debate about the path forward for Black people. And it seems like Mr. Fortune is more a part of the Du Bois school of thought of like, our best minds don't need to be learning agriculture and hard labor like we just got out of that. Our best minds need to be learning the more high arts, quote unquote. And Peggy is like, any progress for Black people is progress. And I really want to discuss this with him. And the thing is, first of all, Peggy doesn't know how privileged she is being a Black person of privilege in New York. Not that racism didn't exist above the Mason-Dixon line, but it was very different. Peggy doesn't realize that even given the racism that she deals with in New York, it's very different in the South. I am very nervous for this whole thing. And we also, I think I forgot how close we are to slavery. In this series. So Mr. Fortune says, last time I was in the South, I was enslaved. And again, this is a sobering realization for Peggy. But Mr. Fortune does agree to let her go. And the whole thing is, but that is a married man and you'll be traveling alone with a married man. Like, be careful. I really hope they're not setting our girl up to be a mistress because Peggy deserves better than that. Her mom really doesn't want her to go. And she tells her, like, you don't look nobody in the eye. You are not a person down there. You just be subservient. Like you, and Peggy's like, you telling me to be subservient. And she's like, girl, I'm trying to tell you how to stay alive down there. Okay. It's very different. I wouldn't have let my child go. We would have had to lock her in a tower. It would have been a hard pass for me. Okay. And Peggy is saying, like, I need this, especially as a coping mechanism to get over the loss of my child. Fair, but let's find another way. I don't want them to go. I don't want them to go. Can we do the interview via correspondence? Can we just mail each other back and forth and do it like that? Why y'all want to go down now? I wouldn't go. But excited for, Peggy to get a little extra work. So So the Van Ryns host this lunch for Dashiell and for the rector, and everybody's sitting around having a good, cute time. They're talking about watercolors, and Agnes is such a hating asshole. She tries to stump Ada by asking her, like, oh, you know so much about watercolors. And I love that the rector is kind of like stepping in to like defend her. It's very cute. And also, Ada is playing chess, not checkers. She went out to make sure that they had the New England clam chowder that the rector has been saying that he has been missing. So apparently you're not supposed to eat soup in the afternoon. That would kill me because I love a good soup. But the rector is so happy with this, and he's just like, oh my gosh, this was so thoughtful. So he later asked Aunt Ada on a date to go see some watercolors, and Aunt Ada conspires with Marianne to go on this date with him, and it's so cute. They at this little museum and chit-chatting and everything. So good for Aunt Ada. She deserves. Agnes should live alone forever. Carrie Russell is continuing his romance with the widow Blaine. I still don't trust that lady. She has to travel to New York the same time as him. So the other function that's going on is an Oscar Wilde play. Oscar Wilde is one of the most interesting figures in history to me. He just has the funniest little quips and lines and all kinds of things. Love that for him. People do not like this play, but and Oscar Van Ryn are having a good time. They seem to have like really similar senses of humor. Gladys is there with John Adams, Oscar Van Ryn's old boo. They have a little chit chat, and John Adams is like, "Child, I done found me somebody, and I'm choosing myself." And Oscar Van Ryn is like, "Girl, I'm so jealous. I wish I could do the same." And it's like, you could, but whatever. I get the feeling that Maud is kind of hip. She's just more clued in. Like she picks up on the fact that Larry Russell left early with the widow Blaine. And, you know, she just has like a sense of things. But does she have a sense of the fact that Oscar Van Ryn is gay? And would she be okay partnering with someone who's gay? Was she like a marriage of convenience? Like if we could just have a good kiki and have fun and a good time? Because isn't that Mr. McAllister's setup? I can't remember. But we'll see what happens. We finally get the tea on Watson. So Watson was a successful banker, and he had a wife and a daughter, but he lost everything in the Panic of 57, which was a real thing, where a lot of banks closed because people defaulted on like railroad loans or something like that. And the wife's father made her divorce him before she could collect her inheritance because he was like a failure, and he was like, we can't trust this man with our money. So he divorced her, gave her a really big settlement, and then went on to also lose more money, proving the man right. And he went bankrupt, and he decided to be a valet or a valet because he's like, well, I had one of my own. I figured I knew how to do it. So that's where his life is now. So McNeil was like, listen, I will get you an apartment in San Francisco. You will have your own staff in your house. Like, we'll pay you an allowance, but you can never contact your daughter again. Don't inquire about her or our kids. I'll send you updates. You cannot write back. And for me, I think Watson should take the deal. I'm still team fuck them kids. Your daughter don't want nothing to do with you. Shit, I let y'all go start over. You're a man. You can have a family with somebody else. And this is like, ain't no social media. Can't nobody find out about you. Ain't nobody gonna follow up on you. You change your name anyway. Change your name again. Start over. Move across the country. That lady don't want to know you. She's choosing her life of comfort and wealth over you anyway. You might as well just hit the bricks. I love how oblivious Aurora is. Aurora has no idea what's going on with anything. She don't know that nobody gay. She don't know about the widow Blaine and Larry Russell. She just out here starry-eyed, like, what y'all talking about? So let me know what you guys thought of this episode. There was a lot to cover. I hope I squeezed everything in. So slide in the comments. Let me know what you think of the episode, the season thus far. What are your hopes for Peggy? What are your hopes for Marianne? Are you hoping that Marianne and Dashiell would get together? I think it's just a little bit too easy, but I don't want her to get so attached to his daughter if she's not trying to really like not fill that role, but step into that space. Like, you can't replace someone's mom, but if you don't even want to like step into that space, maybe don't be so close to this man's child. So we'll see what happens. Stakes are getting a little bit higher. I'm thinking there may be some violence in terms of the unions, but we'll see. Talk to you guys soon. Bye. Oh, also, I'm reviewing Rap Shit Season 2, so check out for those videos as well. Subscribe, send money, tell a friend we over here talking. Bye.